2019 is going to be a very important year for net neutrality because the fight to save the internet will now be waged in the courts. And it's a battle that's going to be waged on multiple fronts because, as you all know, there's the lawsuit against Ajit Pai and the FCC by 22 attorneys general, as well as pro-net neutrality companies like Mozilla, who are suing the FCC to get them to undo their repeal of Title II protections. But then there's also the lawsuit by the Justice Department against California because it enacted its own net neutrality regulations. And that's certainly going to be important because that's a case that has further implications for other states like Oregon, my state, and Washington that decided to enact their own net neutrality regulations as well. Now, the battle is going to start very, very soon because on February 1st, that's when oral arguments will be heard for the lawsuit against the FCC and Ajit Pai. Now, the Washington Post's Brian Fung has a little bit more information about this upcoming court battle, and he explains on Wednesday the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit revealed the names of the 3 judges who will be deciding the case: Judith Rogers, Patricia Millett, and Stephen Williams. Of the 3, Williams is a familiar face. Appointed to the court by President Ronald Reagan, Williams served on the 3-judge panel that heard the case on net neutrality when the Obama-era rules were challenged by broadband companies. In 2016, he was the only judge who dissented, although that was only to part of the ruling, to the decision that upheld the regulations. The 2 other judges for the February hearing are both Democratic appointees. Rogers was nominated by Bill Clinton and Millett by Barack Obama. Millett has argued forcefully for reproductive rights and has been called a worthy successor to Ruth Bader Ginsburg, according to Slate. Rogers is considered a politically moderate judge who is meticulous in her knowledge of the way federal agencies properly make decisions, which will be the key issue facing the court when groups such as Mozilla face off against the FCC February 1st. Rogers' understated style and mild manner are not likely to give away to the courtroom which argument she finds more compelling, but persuading her is likely the key to victory, said Andrew Schwartzman, a lecturer in law at Georgetown University. Judge Rogers is the vote that the FCC needs to win, said Schwartzman, adding, few things are ever certain when it comes to speculating about court cases. Now, reading this actually made me feel sick to my stomach, because this is going to be closer than it should be. It's going to come down to a swing vote. So either way, win or lose, it's going to come down to the vote of Judge Rogers. Shouldn't even be that close. It should be unanimous, but this is going to be close. And if we win, it's going to be by a very close margin, which is irritating to me because we shouldn't have to fight for something that 90% of Americans want. But nonetheless, this is America. And that's the state of our country currently. So that's what's going to happen with that court battle. Now, I will say this. It's an important caveat. Even if it's the case that oral arguments are set to begin February 1st, which is good because I just want this to get started already, well, it may be the case that this case, oral arguments specifically, are postponed because of the government shutdown. Now, federal courts run out of money as of January 11th. So they haven't said anything yet. It's still supposed to go forward as planned on February 1st, as of the time that I'm recording this. So that's the first lawsuit that we're talking about now. The second lawsuit, the Justice Department's lawsuit against California, is another thing that we will be watching very closely in the year of 2019. But the outcome of the first lawsuit against the FCC is going to heavily influence the second lawsuit against California, and really it's going to set the tone for that lawsuit. And as it stands currently, California and the Justice Department actually reached an agreement where the Justice Department agreed to postpone their lawsuit and California agreed to not enforce their net neutrality law, even if it's currently on the books. So assuming both sides are waiting to see how that first lawsuit is going to play out, then we should see the second lawsuit go forward. Now, on top of this, internet service providers in Vermont are suing the state over their net neutrality bill as well. But overall, something that we all should be watching closely is the very first case, the lawsuit against the FCC by 22 attorneys general and companies like Mozilla. So this is all going to be very important, and it will determine the future of the internet. How that first lawsuit goes is going to really have an influence in terms of legal precedent on how that second lawsuit is going to go, because if they say that the repeal of net neutrality is legitimate and they uphold it, then they're also upholding the FCC's ability to block states from passing their own net neutrality laws, which means that the Justice Department legally can probably overrule California's law. So this is all incredibly scary, and understand that another route to saving net neutrality is officially eliminated because the CRA resolution to restore net neutrality by Congress is dead. The deadline passed and they did not act in the House of Representatives. Now, it could be the case that Congress still takes action and passes a bill, but the problem with that is that in and of itself may be a fight that's harder than just letting them do nothing and just waiting to see how it plays out in the courts, because big telecom companies are currently trying to push for a legislative solution because they know lawmakers are their puppets and they can get them to propose a bill that is supposedly net neutrality in an attempt to appease us. That's actually not net neutrality. I mean, we saw this with Marsha Blackburn when she was in the House of Representatives, who is now a senator and can push this. She proposed the Shell bill that actually is harmful to net neutrality. So I don't even want to push for a net neutrality bill because it could be watered down now. So I think that we should all just kind of wait, see how this plays out, hope that states, meanwhile, pass net neutrality protections because I think it's important. But I think everyone, at this point, be it citizens, internet service providers, are waiting to do anything. But if this goes south, if we lose this battle in court, that's when I think we can expect internet service providers to get a little bit more draconian in their attacks on net neutrality, be a little bit more brazen, because right now it's clear that they're being cautious because they don't know how this is going to play out. So why would you drastically change the infrastructure of the internet knowing that it could backfire? You may have to reverse it again. So this is going to be a huge year when it comes to net neutrality.
Girly Mike Fettuccini needs your support on Patreon. What a loser. Visit patreon.com/Humanist Report to support the low ratings Humanist Report. Sad. My views are much higher.